Hey everyone, Mike Doloff, Chief Revenue Officer at Inflow Communications. Glad to be with you today. Joined by one great colleague of mine, Tarek. Tarek, say hello, introduce yourself, man.
Hey, how's it going? As Mike said, I'm Tarek. I am a customer success manager here at Inflow Communications, and excited. I'm excited, man. Let's do this.
Awesome. Let's do it. Tarek's a soccer player too, so you know he's a good guy, so rest assured. So what I'm excited about is Tarek came to me and said, hey, I want to talk about a good experience I had regarding cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency, obviously, big topic the last few years, and something I personally know pretty little about. So Tarek is going to kind of share his experience. That was a really good experience around Bitcoin. So I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. Tarek, take it away, man.
Okay, so let me preference by saying that I am not a Bitcoin expert at all. So start with that. But I had won a prize online, cash prize, and one of the payout options was Bitcoin. So I thought to myself, let's explore this. Let's take this next step. So generally speaking, I go online and I do a little research on Bitcoin websites and who's best sort of to go through with that. Where do I get a wallet? So on and so forth. I find the website I want to go with. I go online, and as soon as the web page pops, it looks very clean. There's areas on the website to gain more information, create an account, really do sort of anything that your little heart desires, right? And as I'm sort of toggling through this website, I get a screen pop on the right. It had been maybe about 3 or 4 minutes, and it was the ability to speak with one of their agents, which was awesome. I love to see the fact that they had seen that I was interested in their product, right? And instead of me going on and searching for one of them, they popped out and said, hey, how can we help you? Anyways, I didn't need the help yet. Figured I was capable enough to sort of steer in the right direction. So I go and I click the create account link, which was easy enough. So I go through the fields, I type my name in, address, etc. Right, which was easy enough. The next step after that was security. There was this 2-step authorization process to sort of get an account started. So every time I would log in, my cell phone number would get a text. So they'd ping my cell phone with a code that I had to correspond to the web page that I was trying to log in from. So you're getting that sort of authorization 2-step alert, which was awesome, especially when we're talking about finances. So we got through that portion pretty fairly easily. Once I had logged in and created the account, next step was to sync my debit card and my banking information, which was simple enough, right? You put in your debit card number and you put in your routing number along with your account number for your bank, and you go on. That was where I encountered my first problem, right? It had blinked red alert. It wouldn't let me go on to the next page. So the first thing you think of is, oh, something's wrong. What's going on here? And as soon as that it alerted me red that something was wrong, I got the same pop on the right-hand side. It was the same agent saying, hey, I see you're having a problem. And what was the cool part about it was they didn't just say, hey, I see you're having a problem. What's wrong? They said, hey, I see you're having a problem with your banking account authorization. Let me see if I could help you with that. So the familiarity with knowing what my problem was, my issue was already, was huge, right? We're talking about finances. We're talking about, receiving money, or my bank information is on display. So to have them sort of tail me through it, that was sort of the backing that I wanted to see, especially from a website like that. And keep in mind, this is my first encounter with Bitcoin, so I had no idea sort of what the norms are here. Anyway, so we get through that issue, resolved, continue going. I authorize my banking information. And once we get to the portion, the agent had wrapped up with me, so I continue on my way. Once we get to the portion where I'm supposed to send the Bitcoin from the prize that I'd won, the people that are sending money to my account, it gives you an option to track that, right? So you can see, did the merchant send the money? Is it supposed to be getting your account? And when is it supposed to get there? Although we reach another issue, right? The issue was that my banking information had not been validated yet, right? So it takes a little bit of time for the merchant there to validate my account information. So another screen pop on the right, same agent. Hey, looks like you have another issue. Let me see if I can help you with that. He comes back with a link to some relative information, which just said, it's going to take a little bit of time for us to sort of go through and go through the process of validating your account. No problem. So I log off, log back on in about an hour or so. I go through the same process, right? So there's no different tricks no hoops to jump through, no new hoops to jump through. Go through the same process. It works. Everything's validated. I confirm that the merchant is trying to send me money. Once I get my Bitcoin, right, I have the ability to withdraw directly to my bank, which was amazing. Once I selected that option, it provided me with two different ways to track it, right? I could track it through email. So I can go into my email and have alerts come up that way, or I can log into the same desktop that I had logged into, and it would give me an actual live track on where that money was going and when it was supposed to arrive. So that was awesome. And also another good little cherry on top was they said 3 to 7 business days, and I got my money the next day. So anytime you can, under promise and over deliver, 2 thumbs way up, especially when we're talking about finances and getting money. So yeah, other than that, that's my story about Bitcoin and starting an account. For someone that was extremely, not necessarily scared, but sketched out about starting a Bitcoin account, very easy. And the process was much less strenuous than I thought it would be. So.
That's awesome. And now I know that you can buy me a nice lunch soon. So I'm pleased with that. That's fantastic. Let's break down some of the components. I think you did a really good job highlighting some of the areas where this experience could have gone off the tracks and instead sort of exceeded expectations instead of just meeting them. So let's break those down really quick. So the first one I would say is you're going back to the beginning of your story, starting your journey, and you wanted to just sort of self-service, right? This is a common thing we see with a lot of customer experiences. A lot of times people do want to have good ease of self-servicing, right? They don't want to, your first thought wasn't, I want to pick up the phone or I want to start a web chat, although it was practically offered to you, which is nice. You wanted to search for information and sort of navigate your way through it. We see that in some cases. Not every experience is going to be like that. It's going to depend on the request, but that's a common theme that we see often is people do want to be able to have the ability to control their timing and access to information and self-serve when they can, which Bitcoin obviously did a nice job of here. So the next thing though is, meeting the expectations too. I think there's a lot of ways you could kind of put this, but one of them is you have anxiety around the sort of overall process of what am I doing and how do I do it. The self-service helped kind of alleviate some of that anxiety as a customer. The other side of it though is, you're dealing with finances, you're dealing with, really sensitive information, banking information. There's levels of requirements as you go through this process of self-service that it's checking the box. There's 2-factor authentication and things like that. That's fulfilling your expectations, which just from a psychological perspective, if you're hitting customer expectations, think of your customer's journey they're expecting it to go through. If you're not meeting that, there can be pain, frustration, but there also can be anxiety, right? This was Tarek's first time going through this process. He doesn't know what to expect. Being able to alleviate that by hitting the expectations someone would have around security, self-service, walking through the steps, brings down people's anxiety, makes them much more receptive to a positive experience, right? Versus this tipping them over the edge of, I'm anxious and now things aren't going well and now I'm really pissed off, right? So that's a key point that was hit here. And I think the last part is really cool because this is a good example of that proactive omni-channel, right? So you were using self-service effectively, which I would say is a channel, right? Going through filling out form to process stuff. That's an interaction, right? Not necessarily with the person, but with the website. But then that chat popping up when you ran into an issue. It's one thing to have a chat pop up and say, how can I help? Which should be also helpful. It's another thing to go, hey, I understand you're needing help in this specific area, and they have that context. That takes us to another level. That's, I think, where as a consumer, as a customer, our expectations are starting to get to, right? Don't just say, how can I help? Help me where I obviously need help. You have information, you have data, you can see where I'm struggling on this form. Jump in with that context and help me out, which is what that agent did, which takes us from just being like, okay, good, I got through that hurdle to, well, that was awesome. That took me just a couple seconds versus me struggling with this, me trying to find a phone number. me trying to explain my problem, where I'm at, who I am, all that context and all that time savings goes away, right? I think the cool thing about that too is that's not only time savings for Tarek and how he feels better with it, that's time savings for the company, right? That's them not having to waste time getting that explained, making somebody jump through hoops, getting somebody frustrated. So it's again, good customer experience should be win-win. There's a good example of it. I like one other thing, we didn't have a bullet point on it, but one other thing I think you mentioned that was cool, Tarek, was just that the proactive updates communication side too. Again, that is a part of your experience. You've done the stuff, you've engaged with the agent in chat, but now you're waiting for the deliverable, in this case, funds to arrive. You would probably call in and ask questions if you didn't have good visibility into that and expectations were met. As it was, they had a good system to automatically kind of update you. We've talked about this in other good experiences or bad ones. That's either lacking, and that creates an anxiety or that need for additional reaching out. In this case, they've set an expectation. They over delivered, right? They beat that expectation, and you had ways to communicate with them automatically in between. That's a key piece. So love the example, love hearing about good customer experience. I feel less anxious now having to dive into that cryptocurrency world based on you being the first guinea pig and telling your story. So thank you for that. As always, everyone tuning in, love to hear your experiences and break them down. I think we have lots of good experiences, lots of bad experiences, and even the occasional ugly ones. Let's break them down, pull it apart, and really understand what those customer experiences we have every day, what makes them the way they are. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you soon.